this shifts from defining shalom and then describing shalom as being that which provides the environment for growth and evolution, to the descriptions of who's really shaykh to shalom, and the first among those is the Gadol Shalom Shenitan La'anavim. שנאמר והענבים ירשו ארץ והתענגו על רוב שלום. That's the pasuk that they bring for the proof. הענבים ירשו ארץ והתענגו על רוב שלום. So there's in a sense a new concept here, which but it's what I'm reading is actually not in the text that we've gotten to, but rather it's back in the Midrash. If you remember, we didn't read the Midrash in its entirety because we wanted to see it piece by piece. But if you look back at on Reish Yud Daled, we see about a third of the way down. There's the pasuk quoted also. So there's a new element here, right? V'yanavim Yirshu Eretz, which was something which we spent a good deal of time on when we explored the nature of Hanava, when we were in the Tiv Hanava. Very important shirim to review. And now there's a new madrega here, which is V'hit Angu Al Rov Shalom. There's a bliss, pleasure that the Anav accesses, which comes from something called Rov Shalom. And Rov Shalom, which is an interesting idea that there can be levels of Shalom, and there can be an intensity of Shalom. That's something we haven't had before. The previous, if you're in the Medrash, so if you look back, right, where we have been, right, Gadol Shalom, Shein Kli Mekabel Bracha Shalom, Shinamar Adonai Yivarech ותמו בשלום, אף בברכת כהנים, אחר כל הברכות, סיים בשלום. לומר שאין הברכות מועילות כלום, אלא אם כן שלום עמהם. רבי אליעזר הכפר אומר, גדול השלום שאין חותם כל התפילה אלא שלום, ואין חותם ברכת כהנים אלא שלום. A different idea, which is where we had left off, that the shalom is the chatima, it's the conclusion. That was quite different than shalom as being a kli machzik bracha. And now that we've arrived at that chatima and the completion of the more active elements of shalom as we've been exploring them, so now there's something else which is really a new idea about shalom, which is its blissful side, its aspect of being a place in which one is mit'aneg. Oneg is really not so active a property. Right? Oneg is something which is generally a result of that chatima, which was just described. In other words, the ascent to final union, or in the spiritual realization of a person's consciousness to the point of some type of emerging with the divine, the arrival at the place where one has been yearning to arrive. The simple physical enjoyment which comes with merging or with completion. These are all aspects of Shalom's realization as being the completion of the incorporation and integration of all the levels that have led up to it. So we're really at a very different point now in the Medrash in terms of what it's seeking to describe to us. And it's describing that in the context of a very particular human characteristic, which is anava. And as we explored when we were learning the Tiva Anava is very different than the way people normally think about Anava. People generally associate Anava with shiflut, with the experience of being, or the stance of being lower than others, to be shafel. But the real pnimiut of Anava has to do with the nature of stripping down to the basic, right, to the pashtut, as lashon inui comes with that, where someone is ne'aneh, not in the sense of causing to suffer, although that suffering can very much be part of the process of stripping oneself down to the bare essentials. But in terms of an ani as being someone who is at the point of bare essentials, or the lechem oni, that it's a lechem she'oni malav dvarim harbe, because it's so present by virtue of being simply its essential self, that it's able to hear things. It's able to hear things. We pointed out last week how Paro is the exact opposite of lechem she'oni malav dvarim harbe. It's just like you couldn't have a more perfect opposite than lechem oni in Paro, who was lo yishma, who's just will not listen. There's no responsiveness, because there's no availability, because there's a complete loadedness of everything which is inessential.
He feels all the space in his mind.
He feels all the space in his mind, and therefore is the picture, the mamish, the picture of shi'abud, the picture of being completely enslaved by the accoutrements of existence, as opposed to being present to existence itself and being just real, being real. Right. It's not real at all. I mean, the way Chazal described that, on one level, is the very first time Moshe Rabbeinu has to go out and talk to him. He says, "Go out when he's going to the bathroom. Meet him in the bathroom. Let's get
real for a minute.
Let's get real. Exactly. Let's get real. It's exactly what it is. Let's get real." And Yinehu Yotzei Hamayma. So that realness, which is so missing in Paro, is actually the source of his impossible circumstance of being unable to listen, and unable to really be liberated.
I'm missing something in the connection. As far as the connection to answers.
No, lechem she'oni malav dvarim harbe is not. It's not so clear that aniyah is an answer. Aniyah is more a response.
Responsiveness, basically.
Ve'anita ve'amarta at the Bikurim is not because someone has asked the person bringing the Bikurim a question.
Responsiveness to the
this is, by the way, this is why Rashi says, it's an amazing Rashi, that this is why Rashi says that the declaration there is that I'm not kfiyat tova. To which there's no real remez. In Pasuk, this is not kfiyat tova. I mean, the Mefarshim wonder, like, how do you see in ve'anita ve'amarta that he's not kafui tova? Maybe, it's because he's now going to say, Armi Oved Avi, Vayered Mitzrayim, and all that. I mean, okay, that's one level, but I think it's even deeper than that. And that is that the fact that the lashon that's used is not just ve'amarta, ve'anita ve'amarta, means that you're in a responsive stance, and in being in a responsive stance, so you're experiencing yourself in terms of your identity as not being something which is self-made, but rather which is a deeply responsive and involved in its environment, and so that itself is the experience of hakarat hatov. Hakarat hatov being, as we've always explained, being my realization of integration and connectivity. So to say ve'anita ve'amarta as opposed to just ve'amarta is already to declare that I'm not someone who is in a stance of rejection of being in environment. I'm someone who realizes himself as being a participant in a much greater whole. This, by the way, is something I've been thinking about. I don't want to go too far off, but it's so precious and very, very relevant to what we're about to talk about, because the this is like such an amazing thing. I realized this yesterday. It's such an amazing thing that that the way Yaakov Avinu must go out to Galut. I think we explored this just a little bit. Is with the vision of the Sulam, vision of a ladder, and this is because he needs to be very, very profoundly aware of the connection of everything that's going to unfold to the earth. Very much an awareness of a Sulam Nitzav Arza, Rosho Magia Shamaima, Malachei Elokim Olim V'Yordim Bo, V'Hine Hashem Nitzav Alav. So Rabbi Levi Strasali has a beautiful note in the meditative experience of moving up a ladder, and then because you've moved up a ladder, so you think you've gotten to an endpoint, and then V'Hine Hashem Nitzav Alav.
It's a new horizon.
Exactly. So totally.
Hine is always something unexpected.
Something unexpected, like the Hine Hashem Nitzav. Gosh, that's when you arrive at a place of heightened awareness and heightened consciousness, which arrives at a point where this is it, and then at that point you can be surprised by the divine presence. If you don't go up a ladder, so then everything's just the same. But if you go up a ladder, so then when you arrive at the top point, it's such a beautiful insight about the pele that lies beyond the boundaries of where consciousness goes. But in terms of what I wanted to describe, to not go off, so that vision is crucial. The vision of there being a ladder is that remains connected to the earth is crucial for Yaakov Avinu to experience before he goes out into Galut. Because in the same way that he must know the groundedness of his experience in his land, in his earth, as fully anchoring his rise to a broader and broader vision, so also he must know his rootedness in his place and in his land and in his earth before he goes out horizontally to the expanded, dispersed vision of what history has in store for the Jewish people in its exile after exile and shibud after shibud. What he's seeing in the timeline of the Malchuyot going up and down, which is another way Chazal describe it, is exactly what he's about to set out on into going into the most extended Galut that any of the Avot experiences. If you don't imprint that vision, that image, before you go out, that life in its wholeness must include an awareness of there being a ladder. That I go out and I come back, but that ladder must be rooted somewhere. Otherwise, you just floating in space. So also that image must be imprinted before we go into Galut. That's the imprint. The imprint is a spiritual imprint, which is nestingly translated into his now personal experience of going out into Galut. And where will he go? He will go to the man who is the man of talk, of deceptive talk. He will go out to the man who attempts to enslave you by the machinations of the mouth. It's mamish, the unwillingness of Lavan for anything of reality to penetrate his plan, or to disturb his agenda. I mean, it's a complete manipulation. So that kind of charlatanism, right, which is the world of Lavan, is the precise inversion of our requirement when we leave Mitzrayim to tell the story. He tells a story which is a complete machination. We tell a story which is a realization of what we have experienced and what we've gone through. He tells a story which is completely non-responsive, and therefore entirely a inner shibu to his own agenda of what reality has to be. And therefore, when we bring the bikuri, the first fruit of the land, so we have to ve'anita ve'amarta. It's got to be ve'anita ve'amarta. It can't just be ve'amarta. It's got to be I'm responding to something. And and in that I'm declaring myself actually to be entirely other than Lavan and entirely other than Para. So,
Something I'm hearing this. Sorry, somebody.
Yeah.
Just been waiting a
So
long
of course,
time.
that's what we have in the Haggadah. That's the passage we quote. We analyze in the Haggadah.
Avada,
That
that's
section
it.
about Mita Avada is not
Avada, that's what I mean. I'm
That's what
sorry.
we're doing,
I
right.
didn't,
Yeah, that's exactly
I
what we're
didn't say
doing.
that explicit. But yeah, absolutely. The Doresh Mi'ara Me'o Ve'navi. Specifically with that interpretation. I mean, there are many possibilities with that.
Something I hear in this is, it seems on the surface of it a contradiction, is that I believe what you're saying is that responsiveness actually is dependent upon a sense of rootedness. Is that initial sense of rootedness actually allows one to spread outward and engage everything, as opposed, that's the model of Yaakov going into Galut, whereas what he needs is Lavan, who has no sense of rootedness, has created a world of language.
Right.
And therefore must defend it vehemently against any encroachment, because if it disappears, he has nothing. Whereas Yaakov, if he encounters something which upsets his story, will fall back on the rootedness and just say, okay, maybe I didn't understand how I got here.
1 second, let's start again.
Touch base, I thought I understood how I got
Going
here.
back on the ladder, I'm looking at how things interrelate.
What it really says to me is that without that rootedness, that rootedness is what defines it as exile. Because you maintain a perception that you're not where you belong.
That's right.
Right. Whereas without that rootedness, you think you're just moving forward through history, and yet therefore you're completely vulnerable to the waves and currents of the present.
It's that rootedness which empowers you to be able to make of all of this disparate experience a story, and to acquire through that acquire through that awareness and consciousness of who I am, what I am, but not in a way in which it excludes the possibility of an ever-expanding selfhood.
Because that wouldn't be real consciousness.
Because that would not be real consciousness at all. That would not involve the realities that are ongoing. It would be a rootedness which becomes a ghettoization.
Problem is, what happens when you get back to the roots before your consciousness is fully evolved?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's growing pains, mamish.
Right.
Or when you're just not in right consciousness, your consciousness is one of expansive engagement, and you're in your current historical experience is one of returning to root.
Yeah. So it becomes. So these are the problematics and the extremes, which are it's insolvable. But the imprint at the outset of ladder is just like, it's just that's exactly what we need. One shlav, is interrelated with the next, and you can come back down. And the dynamism of it, you can come back down and then go back up. It's not the end of the story, which is in a sense why Yaakov Avinu was not willing to climb the ladder when Hakadosh Baruch Hu offers to him. Offers Yaakov to climb the ladder. Now it's your turn. No. I'm something else. I don't know. something else. Okay, but I'm reading this right now because Ve'anita ve'amarta is an expression of the Yerushas Haaretz. Because what happens when we come back, Ki tavo el haaretz, unatatem kol eitz pri, etc. You come back and you plant. So then the thing you need to do at that point is to recall this ladder of experience, which has exposed you to so much, and to declare about it. That's kind of aniyah. Now that aniyah is a participation in the anava, right, of the lechem oni, which is of course why it's the matzah that's going to be there, right? That aniyah is what gives you the possibility of Yerushas Haaretz, because in as much as, say, it's like a political agenda or an ideological commitment or a
struggle judgment,
a struggle, right, or
entitlement.
right, or a salvation from pain and suffering, or all the things that we talked about last time, and any of that kind of a description of what it is I'm doing here is going to not empower you to have a Yerusha.
Well, as the world shifts,
you'll never be all right.
Construct will be left behind.
Exactly. So you came because of this. It's a nation state, or it's a haven, or it's a this, or it's a that. I mean, so everything's shifting. Well, is it still a haven, or is it more dangerous here? Is it like
a nation legitimate aspiration?
Is it a legitimate aspiration, or is it something which just trounces other people's rights? I mean, what's going on? Every time you try to define what it is you're doing here, you get displaced by an ever shifting, I don't know if necessarily advancing, but ever shifting, environment of concepts. The only thing you can talk about is this is my Yerusha. I mean, this is where my ladder rests.
And I'm responsive to its present reality. I mean, that's how you display the fact that it's your Yerusha.
Exactly, because it becomes a malleable interaction between the realities of the environment and the rootedness of my selfhood and identity, which is here in this. It's in this ground. That's all I can say. It's in this ground. But in order to really do that, not just as a tactic, right? In order to really do that, you have to be an anav. You have to be an anav. You have to be someone who is really and truly a part of the ground of existence in such a simple way that he can appreciate the specific placement which he has in existence's emergence, and also, of course, appreciate the specific placement of all other elements of what existence has grown into and continues to grow into. Without that, it will never be a Yerusha. It could be a matana. It could be a chayfetz, like we talked about. It could be something that's a chayfetz, right? It's a possession. But a possession is very different than Yerusha. Yerusha automatically implies
you have an inherent connection to it.
There's an inherent, beautifully put, an inherent connection, which is an inheritance. It's an inherent connection. It's an inherent connection which is defined by the nature of what I am and the nature of being, which is much more profound and much more difficult also to experience and know. I mean, it's in the nature of being that I should be here. How does that work? Right? That's you're already now in the realm of the pele, of individuated identity, which maintains a very clear awareness of the simplicity of existence and my participation in it. I mean, that's always the
boundedness and simplicity.
Yeah, the point of pele, which is an impossible. That's why it's just v'hinei Hashem nitzав alav. It's like, my gosh, where did he come from? Like, where did Havaya come from? Where did being come from? I'm so surprised. I thought I was walking gradually up towards that expanded vision, and then it's a surprise. It's a surprise because there's always stage skipped.
Well,
It's
I
just a
guess what
stage
it
skip.
is
There's
is
nothing,
that-
there's nothing to do. It's just a stage skip. It's just boom.
we have a linear conception, and what it is that reality. I'm not thinking in my experience as an educator. You take kids who grow up in urban and suburban environments, when you bring them out into the mountains, and the experience of walking up a mountain pass for the first time is like this gradual, and they have a sense of reward and accomplishment, but when you get to the horizon, it's beyond anything which they had a context to grasp. That first exposure to a world whose horizon is far more expansive than that which they ever dreamed of is a transformative experience.
Wow.
I actually remember that. I remember
Yeah,
that experience.
I've experienced this with many people, and
So-
it's a very powerful awakening if it's grasped as such.
So the skipping the step. So of course that's where Chazal say, "Oh, yeah, kvitza saderech." That's the context in which they
Beautiful.
pointed out.
Beautiful. Beautiful. It's like the same vertical, so to speak,
Right.
arrival is
Express.
expressed in the physical, and that it's just there. Just got there. How did I get here? It's the same thing. It's the same thing. So for us, right? For us, it's like it's just so. It's just like so. It's got to be visceral. It's just got to be visceral. And this you see, because oneg, in a sense, is the most visceral of all experiences. It's the most intensely sensual oneg, even in the spiritual sense. It's the heightened awareness of the senses is in that. Just like, without it being a self-involved heightened awareness of senses, it's not something which is turned into the self. It's
It's
not
about union.
because it's because it's about that arrival at something else by which I am formed, and I myself am, and in formation in that formless void, so to speak. Right? And all that kind of a breadth of an intensity of experience is the vihit angu al rov shalom. Al rov shalom. It's this is more than just shalom. This is more than just shalom, right? Because it's not just shalom as a chatima. It's shalom which is transcended
Shefa.
It's the shefa shalom. It's transcended this specific context which has been previously set. But this is and it's just so beautiful the way that the hit angu al rov shalom that is combined with the anavim yirshu eretz, the anavim yirshu eretz, and it's like you can't have one without the other. It's like without the Yerusha. Now this is so timely, right? In terms of the Kriyas HaTorah and Yetzias Mitzrayim and Avraham Avinu, who was the first one Kodesh Baruch Hu told, right? Exactly. The first one who Kodesh Baruch Hu told that he was going to be Yoresh, the Eretz.
Through Inu.
And what's going to happen is, if you could give me like a Bereshis, and also a Vayikra or something on that. Sorry. Where that declaration of a Kodesh Baruch Hu to Avraham Avinu, which is the introduction to the whole idea of going down to Mitzrayim, is we talked about this, I think, right? Asher Hotzeiticha Me'ur Kaskim. We talked about that here. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So the Hinei Dvar Hashem Elav Lemor Lo Yirash Chazeh. It's all about Yerusha. It's all about that ability to, Mamash so beautifully put, inherently know the nature of and the reality of who you are. Latet lecha et haaretz hazot l'rishta morasha, as later HaKadosh Baruch Hu will say at the beginning of Vayera. We went over this, I think, last time. So this is like this. So these are That requires of Abraham. He recognizes that requires a whole other level of what it means to be a presence in a world that on the one hand demands of you an anochi, and requires all the time that you sense yourself as being afar va'efer at once. Something I've been boning a lot on in the last week with this anochi, afar va'efer. Anochi is vertical. Anach. And Anach is a vertical. Like the anochi is anochi, afar va'efer. You know, I have these tefillah group once a month. You know, and like so. For me, it's like the whole reason I have it is so we can just lie down when we get to Nefilas Apayim on our faces. Because after all of the anochi of the Amida, it's absolutely crucial that you just fall down.
That's why you put the floor of wood.
Exactly. So now you can just do no qualms. It's because I mean and we say it actually. Ki afar anachnu. At the end of the Tachum, we say ki afar anachnu. If you haven't been in the dust, so why are we talking about ki afar anachnu right now? Because that's just where we were. But the anochi as being the vertical, amida, afar va'efer, as being just like falling down, is mamash like it's this ongoing dynamic between the arrival of selfhood and the return to the earth. Arrival of selfhood and return to the earth. And the Anav knows that more than anyone, because he is able to return to just the simple presence of being. Any experience of the emergence of self will be of very, very precious and dear sense of the inherent, unquestionable value of my particular growth, emergence, like presence. So he will be Yoresh Haaretz. He will be Yoresh Haaretz. Only another.
The Yerusha aspect, and I think maybe what you just said might be helpful for me.
I'll say it Hasidic. B'ma eida ki Yerusha. That's the Hasidic reading of the pasuk.
What's troubling me is that I feel like there's different places in my consciousness, in my being, where I can hold a Yerusha phenomena. It seems like the healthy one is very non-intellectual, kind of physically very low, very just like, like belly kind of, okay, like I belong here.
I am of this.
But it seems to me that the intellectual idea of this is mine, like that I inherited this, is one of the most dangerous ideas that we have.
But the statement "this is mine" is actually not an accurate description of Yerusha.
No,
that's an
not at all.
accurate description of Chevetz. That's the
right.
problem.
I am of this.
I am of this, or I am its.
That was why it's so
Like,
beautiful, the idea of
Inherent. Right?
it's inherent to the inheritance. In other words, once you say this is mine, so you've stepped outside into Yeshli Ra. You've stepped outside. I have. Well, then you don't. And you don't. And you know where you can know it is because that will not be an experience of oneg.
Mm-hmm.
The concomitant is you might experience some kind of a false simcha, but it's a false simcha. Right. It's a false simcha. But there will be something which could lean there, because simcha is involved in the yesh. Right, as we've explained in the past when we were in the writings of Abraham Alevi, right? Yesh arrives with Bina, right? But oneg is always a line true oneg are aligned with ayin, and therefore, as soon as you say yeshli, so it's not going to be an oneg. It's not going to be an oneg experience in its purity. And enough said, right? Anyone who knows like that's where you'll be able to test it. Like, is this something which is inherent to the union because I am of this, or is it something which I have am claiming possession to?
A couple of things. One, that seems to be part of the word of Yerusha. When the Baruch tells Moshe Hachel Rash, in other words, the inherent in the word the La Reshet is the Ani aspect of it. As Rash is exactly that.
Beautiful.
In order for it to be a true Yerusha, you have to be Rash.
Interesting. Wow. That is beautiful.
And I'm wondering about the contrast between Yerusha and Nachala. In other words, we have Lahanchil or Hava Yesh. Would Nachala be in the Yesh?
I think so. Yeah. Absolutely.
So
yeah. Nachala is something else. Nachala is something else, and God doesn't say that to Abraham.
That's why it's always a personal portion.
Right, exactly. But this is, but I think this becomes a beautiful meditation also. The Bama Eda Ki Hashem. Almost as if Abraham, like as is always the case.
He's making a statement.
He knows the answer. He knows the answer. Bama Eda Ki Hashem. It's in the Ma. Ma Mechayen Ma Ki Hashem. It's like it's so perfectly fitting this sense of like that the Anavim are the Anavim Yirshu Eretz Al Ro Shalom. I've been very in we talk about Hamer Ymirenu Vayal. Did we talk about this last time? Very in this and it's very relevant, of course. Right? But I'm very in this this sense of Chodesh Shvat and this whole experience of what the Arizal describes as being the motive force of Chodesh Shvat, which is as I'm sure you're all familiar, the Shem Havaya Yud Kei Vav Kei has all 12 permutations, right? For each month there's a different permutation. So the permutation of Chodesh Shvat, it's just like these things are just so perfect because they're spoken B'Ruach HaKodesh. The permutation of Chodesh Shvat is taken from the end of the Chukosai, where we say V'im Hamer Yimirenu V'Hayahu Tmurato Kodesh, which is the Hey Yud Hamer Yimirenu Hey Yud V'Hayahu is the Vav Hey. Sure. So the context, first I'll give the context, right? The context is, this literal translation is, and if you exchange, if you will surely exchange, right? Then it and him and him and the exchange will become sanctified. Amazing, and I'll explain what's going on here. Just the background of this is so valuable. We're talking there at the end of Sefer Vayikra about someone who's doing Maaser Behema, right? V'chol Maasar Bakar Batzom. So he's got a pen with animals in it, and he's letting them out one by one. Kol asher yavor tachet ha shavet, right? There it is. It's Shvat. So they're going under the Shavet, and one by one, and he's counting them. Hasiri Kodesh. The 10th is going to be Kodesh. Hasiri Kodesh. That's where it comes from. Right. So they're coming one by one.
I mean, it's awkward association.
What happens if one jumps back into the pen?
No,
Okay.
you got to shaft the 10th guy that comes into shul.
That's how he experiences it.
Yeah.
So there he is. So there he is. So there he is. They're going one by one, and then so he's watching, and he sees the the nicest sheep is about to be the 10th. Starts going brr, brr, like trying to get this get back there. He's trying to get the skinny one to go first, this or that, whatever, or however it works. Or it might be that the skinny one's going to be. He doesn't feel that's Raui to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's how it goes. Just we want to at least open the possibility.
It does work both ways.
in any case, he's got a conception of the way things ought to be. So the Torah says, "Lo yivaker ben tov lara." Don't start now making these distinctions. Ve'lo yamirenu. And don't exchange things. That's not for you to do. Just let it unfold as it's unfolding. Okay. Ve'im hamer yamirenu. And if anyway, it's like that. I remember this cartoon. I don't know, it's like this outer space, and there's like this. They're in this, one of those chalalits of, cartoon chalalit, and he's like out there, and there's like this big button, that says, "Don't push me. Do not touch
Have you been
this."
watching Ren and Stimpy?
I don't know. It's a memory from my childhood.
That is not.
Is there something like that? All right, anyhow, so do not press this button. Do not, no. Boom, of course. And if you press the button, and if you press the button, then, so that's exactly this, v'lo yimiren. That's it, we're done. V'im hamer yimiren, if you went ahead and did it anyway, that's Chodesh Shvat. V'im hamer yimirenu. Now, hamer yimirenu starts with the hey ila'ah, with the yesh, and moves towards. It's starting from beneath, going up. It's like what Paro said to Yosef. That's navon v'chacham. This is the navon v'chacham, something which comes out of the earth, comes out of the yesh, and moves towards. Okay, so like he's now done something, right? V'hayahu, well, it's going to come back down anyway as hu utmurato ye kodesh, which incredibly Kodesh is marviach from. It's like really wild. Kodesh is now gotten.
He did a chet.
Is this a lav? Lo yimirenu is like, it's a lav. It sounds like a lav, right? And he did an avera. And now the pasuk now defines that even though you've done an avera, what has happened now is actually become completely incorporated into the Kodesh. This is fascinating. Now, this is especially fascinating in the context of what we're reading in the Parsha, where you have the matzah and the tzli eish al murorim yochlu. You have to eat it on murorim, but the murorim are the tmurot. In other words, the pain and the bitterness is by definition something which is transformative. Yes, mamish it's in the language. The bitterness is transformative, and therefore all of the symbols of the geula have to be on a bed of murorim. There's no other way, because the murorim create, as we've been describing, the murorim dafka create an insistent drive towards a more exposed and essential identity. And I'll explain to you how this works, a little bit of how this works. It's very fascinating. I think we've talked about it in the past, but it's mamish a process. It's one of the processes which the Baal Tanya describes in the Tanya, and that is that it's the intensification of merirut, which can access a person to a more essential realization of self. How so? Because the more mimurmar you become about something, if you're able to maintain that root in context, and usually you'll need help in that,
Yes,
right?
because otherwise it just becomes narrowing and
Becomes narrowing and
victimizing.
becomes Mitzrayim, Sarot, becomes Tsaris, and forget it.
You become a
etc.
victim.
Yeah, become a victim. But if the root instead becomes a realization of, I'm the Mu'mar because there's something about me which is wanting more.
More.
Of course in English. More. There's something in me that's wanting more. So that becomes an awakening of a more essential self than is what that particular circumstance that I'm in is providing me. That's great. That's great. It's the Merirut which injected the whole process with incredible energy.
Otherwise, you'd never change.
Otherwise, you'd never change. You'd never change.
It's also interesting to note that it's responsive, meaning the Inuitam is to be responsive to the Inui.
Vayimaru et chayehem. Exactly. If there's no Vayimaru et chayehem v'inuotam, so that Inui, which is again, the point is not the torture and the pain like we were describing last time. The point is the da'at which comes of it. So that then propels an entirely new process, right? Which then opens up a much more a cleansed sense of what it is that I truly am. That Merirut is essential. Now that's something which is embedded in the nature of what it means to be. What it means to be human, mamish. And this is just so. We've explored Vayitzer here. It's just like I'm so in this now. It's like, so I don't know where I'm saying what, but I'll just tell you. I mean, like, the pasuk which just defines man and the creation of man. Vayitzer, Hashem Elokim es ha'adam. Vayitzer. So Rashi says. So the Chazal, Rashi is a little bit different. The Chazal say there are two yuds in this Vayitzer. Why are there two yuds in the Vayitzer? After all, whenever all the behemoths were created, there was only one yud. So why are there two yuds? So Chazal, this is a medrash which says the most amazing thing, because one yud is olam haba and one yud is olam hazeh. So now, if you take that as a religious statement, so right, we have eternal souls, animals don't. But that's not the point. That is not the point. And I know it's not the point because of the end of the pasuk. Because the end of the pasuk, which is Vayipach b'yapav nishmat chai, right? The Adam lenefesh chaya. So there, the nefesh chaya is, Rashi says, is nitosef bo uchaya shebekulam, shenitosef bo deya v'dibu. So the Vayitzer is actually being paralleled by the Deya V'dibu. I believe that's what Rashi really intends to expose there. He doesn't just say he's a Ruach Memalala that he's able to speak. He's got Deya V'dibu. And that's rooted in the Vayitzer. And I'll tell you how. It's something which we all know. We talked about this last time talking to ourselves. Yeah. Right. But we didn't talk about Vayitzer. This is really crucial, and that is that aspect of ourselves, which is our olam haba, is the aspect of our identity which is always yet to come. Now that yet to come, right? That yet to come becomes a point of communication with ourselves. But when you communicate from that yet to come, and you are in the current circumstance that you live, the emotive response to that initially is merirut.
No, I'm not where I want to be.
I'm bitter. I'm embittered. Bitter. The bitterness. Just the tactile experience of bitterness. But there's a reaction there in that bitterness, right? It's like
it's tonic.
It's tonic. It's not for me. It's not for me. So that revelation, that exposure, is an experience of the tension which lies between those two yuds. That's what it means to be a human being, is to experience that and to know that. And the merirut is that empowered moment. Oneg is really the opposite of the mar. And oneg is the opposite of the mar.
It's when you step into that
It's when
new self.
That's right. Now, exactly. You by virtue of the merirut, and excuse this is already a little bit too much even to play on the word for me, but it's like lihit romain, because it flips, and you're mit romain. You move up on the ladder, and you became someone now who's able to see from the vantage point of new self, old self, and then to move into that. And the experience of that is mamish of tremendous oneg and of rov shalom. It's mamish like a rov shalom. It's not just shalom of like an incorporation, but rather the shalom already implies within it that I have superseded some previous reality. The ultimate rov shalom, of course, will only be the hinei Hashem Yitzhak, like the just like, where did this come from? Where did this come from? But the movement up the ladder is generated by this experience of merirut all the time.
Like
This is mamish. I was just like, just meditating like this. I love it. I just love that. Because it's mamish shvat. You become like a shavit. In the sense of like a pole, and the saraf is oleh. It's like just this warmth, letting the warmth come up, which begins with merirut, begins with bitterness, becomes warmth. The saraf turns into a sipur, same letters in samich and sin mitchalfot, right? And the saraf becomes a sipur, and then I find myself like in this other madrega, which is able to be sweet, which is the metikut of the saraf. So it's like in hamer yimirenu. Now, like the deep thing is like when you see you got it all wrong, and in getting it all wrong, you got it all right.
Because you're willing to accept that moment of the bitterness, the lesson in the bitterness.
Exactly. If you're not willing to accept the moment of the bitterness, then what you got wrong stays wrong and mar. But im hamer yimirenu,
Use it as a transformative moment.
is so amazing. It's like that becomes the almatzot umrorim yochlu. Like not that pisuk, right? Matzot tzli eish al murorim yochluhu, the pisuk in the pasuk, which is a big diyun in the midrashim and the mechilta and the mefarshim, right? Whether maror is a mitzvah b'fnei atzma. The Rambam and end up where we paskin is not maror is not a mitzvah b'fnei atzma. Sorry, but there's no mitzvah in the Torah to eat maror unless that maror is accompanied by the korban, by the movement upwards, which is what the korban is, by the movement upwards into a more expanded vision and awakening. This is mamish, like, so if I could, I walk with this a lot with Parshas B'Shalach, because Parshas B'Shalach, we've talked about this in the past, like opens with this insane opening.
It wasn't going to work out that way.
Exactly, it's an insane opening. The insane opening is Vayi. This is the Rambam in the Morning of Luchim who points this out, right? I think we've spoken this out. Yeah, okay. So I'll just say briefly. But this is exactly it. Vayi b'shalach parvat ha'am. V'lo nacham Elohim derech eretz Plishtim. Ki karov hu ki amar Elohim peni nachem ha'am b'yotam l'chama v'shavu mitzrayim. Nothing I can do. It's like if I can't take them through eretz Plishtim. Maybe you can't take them. Just go like, and they'll be gone. What are you talking about? No. They'll never be Yorish, the land, if I just go. And so, what am I going to do? People are weak. And then the whole thing becomes Kriyas Yamsu, Man, the bear. Oh my gosh, what are you talking about? Muhammad Har-Sinai, like, what are you talking about? No, it all came because, they couldn't handle it. And we extended that a lot more in the past. But like Mamish, like, V'lo nacham Elohim. I was thinking, a child Shudas was thinking, it's like this, like, Shivtecha u'mishantecha, hema yenachamuni. Mamish, Shivtecha u'mishantecha, the shevet from the Kol Asher Yavor Tachat HaShevet. U'mishantecha. It's like these two pieces. It's like the shevet, which is the guide. Kol Asher Yavor Tachat HaShevet. It's like, the sign of moving forward. U'mishantecha. And there you are behind me too, supporting me. Even when I fell back, you were there. Shivtuch mishantecha, hema yenachamuni, which is mamish like b'shalach, hema yenachamuni v'lo nacham Elohim, pen yinachem ha'am. What HaKadosh Baruch Hu does is like holds us in that. And it's just, this is like, this is really, really, really this. It's really a way of Yerusha. It's a way of discovering through the Murud, a way of discovering what is inherent to me, what really is the nature of what I am, the truth of my being. If you can arrive at that, so you achieve Rov Shalom, and you're Mamish Yorish Haaretz. Mamish Yorish Haaretz. You have to go through it all. No shortcuts.
I'm just thinking about how the nature of dream is exactly that. Why does this have to come to Yaakov in a dream? It's not a dream. The ability to see beyond where I am now, to see something greater.
Even the willingness to do this is itself a stepping out of.
Right.
And something I experience so much is the shivud in the Mar itself. Why would I ever want to do that? Being so embittered, being so like in the Mara that there's no desire to dream. There's no, there's no movement out. It's something that I work with people so often. Is like, like if I were to take somebody down two paths of like, and then what, and then what, and then what, and sometimes because of that, and then I would kill myself. Okay, and then what? And then I'd have joy. Let's talk about the joy. Like there's a path there.
Right.
But sometimes it's like, and then it's like there's a limit in the dreaming, in the vision, and the ability to like
when
experience that Olam Haba to some degree. And I'm wondering if you have any, because all of the like this path that you've laid out is so beautiful, and it requires a certain awakening in itself to
accept it as a real process,
to conceive of it, to dream it,
to notice. In my right, exactly, and to notice even before all of the more heightened consciousness, just to notice that I am Mimur. I mean, that is such an awakening. To notice that I am Mimur. So then, who the heck is Mimur here? Who is Mimur? The one you're Mimur about? He's not Mimur. That's the way he lives. So who's Mimur? Who are you? That's where but it's got to be hard. It's got to be, sometimes you just got to get tough with people, like I yell at people, like.
You ever slap anything?
Well, I always tell them, I'm not a professional, so I can do whatever the hell I want. Who the hell are you, man? Like, what are you so bitter about? Who is bitter? who is bitter. Who is bitter becomes like mamish. It's an opening. Is anything foolproof? Nothing's foolproof. But I know that that's where it's like this, the equivalent of the Hinei Hashem Nitzavala. My God, where did that come from? What do you mean where did that come? That's you.
For the shaking, I hear that there's some value.
There's got to be
in the
this.
shaking.
There's got to be you got to do this. It's like sometimes
It's
you
the equivalent of the rock bottom that people have to hit at some point.
Yeah. So sometimes you can accelerate that, and sometimes you just say, okay, you're okay, go die. No, I don't. Oh. Whatever. Say it. Oh, like those are like whatever. There is that's one way. That's one way, right? There's a sweetening way also, which is you're going down like the negative track. We might try something today in Chavur, which is like going down. There's going down the positive track. It's like, but yeah, you know that but it's a matter of how you construct the question, But whatever.
What do you make of the I think it's in the Talmud, you shouldn't raise your hands above your head. So I think
There's no psak in the Talmud that you can't raise your hands above.
No, I can find it.
I've heard a quote from the Zohar.
It's from the Zohar.
From the Zohar.
Okay, so first of all,
Sorry.
no, the Zohar is a much. No, I don't mean to belittle the Zohar. I just mean that the Zohar is a much more malleable to interpretation sefer. That's one thing. The second thing is that the Zohar says that only regarding someone who's not praying or making a bracha. So when you're praying or making a bracha, so then you can pick it there. That's true. And I totally identify with.
It sounds like you were talking.
I'm sorry?
It sounds like you were talking.
Yeah.
If you were.
Okay, so but you can appreciate now also how we've come to a whole different place now. Where we've been like, until now we had the tefillah being chotem b'shalom, right? So it's okay. Now that you've been chotem b'shalom, so you can, so now what? Well, now there's rov shalom. There's rov shalom. It's like it never ends, But that rov shalom has to be something which is derived from such a an exposed and simple self that it's able to really be merged with the earth, merged with the ground, and experience itself as truly inherent, the ground being inherent to the nature of what it is, the ground of existence being inherent. These are very profound insights which really need to be endeared, in reading them. There's one other statement here, which is of the same sort, and then we'll end with this, right? And that is the Amar Od, Gadol Hashalom, Shushaku Keneged Hakol. And if you look in the pasuk which is quoted, kind of a pasuk, is something which itself is tzarich iyun, but the Medrash says Gadol Hashalom Shushaku Keneged Hakol, Shneimar Oser Shalom Uvarei Hakol.
Right, which is not the pasuk.
Which is not the pasuk.
Yeah.
Right. So
It's the bracha.
it's the bracha. So
we've sort of discussed how it's basically an explanation of the pasuk.
yes, I think so.
Yes.
I think so. In other words, the statement of the actual pasuk is Oseh Shalom Uvorei Ra. That's the actual pasuk. But Oseh Shalom Uvorei Hakol is Chazal's. It's like a targum. It's like the Targum of the pasuk. It's just I think Hakadosh Baruch Hu's inclusiveness in creation must include the Ra. But yeah.
Sorry, it's a targum, but I feel it as an invitation to connect and engage and with what other. If I just left it as Ra, I'd say, and that's outside, that's distant, that's the evil that I'm like over and against. Whereas when I call it Hakol, then I'm invited to involve myself.
Right. And this is something which is very present in the way the Maharal began the whole nativ, right? If you remember that Nirma believe Chorshe Ra. Right? Ra is really the opposite of Shalom. So that if Shalom can incorporate the Ra and it become Kol, so then we really arrived at a whole level, right? This Kol, and this sense of Kol, right? That Tam Shalom Neged Hakol. Now I've gone back to the Maharal on Resh Tetvav. The Tam Shalom Neged Hakol ki Hakol tzrichim el Shalom. Lefichach Shalom hu keneged Hakol. That everything needs Shalom. Everything needs Shalom because everything exists by virtue of it being in the environment which is Shalom, which enables all things to be. That's because it's the ground environment for the structure, which enables things to exist. וגם מן הטעם שהתבאר כי השלום הוא מן השם יתברך אשר הוא צורה אחרונה אל הכל ולכך השלום הוא הכל. So he's always like with these two ends, like the ground end of the Hakol and the end, right, in terms of the telos of it, like where it's all headed towards the Shalom. Right? So this is the Shalom and in the sense of Kol. Okay, I think we're gonna stop here. Something anyone wants to share or wonder about?